Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome. And thanks for joining us for another session of New England Chapter Connect. We have another great topic today, and we have over 85 registered for today's session from all over New England and beyond. So welcome, everybody. My name is Rich Benevento. I am the APWA Region 1 Director and also the co-chair of the New England Chapter Public Works Awareness Committee, and I'm also Senior Vice President at Ty and Bond. Today's session is an opportunity to look back and see how the COVID era may have changed how we approach our work, in this case, winter operations. While COVID-19 was a major challenge for many public works departments and agencies, new and innovative practices were created that continue to be utilized today. So today you will hear from a panel of public works professionals discussing the challenges of winter operations and sharing new techniques that they're using to improve efficiency, reduce costs, and support DPW storm crews. Current weather predictions for the Northeast are calling for no snow this winter. No, not really, hardly. We're hearing it's going to be snowier and colder. We'll see. Well, we will know in April how the winter was, right? But we have a great panel of experts from across New England and Canada that are here to share their insights and experiences. So it should be a great discussion. We're glad you're here. Just a couple of things before we get started. First, many thanks to the Public Works Awareness Committee and the Education Committee for putting these programs together. They do great work trying to bring important topics to our membership. If you're interested in getting involved, certainly reach out to any one of us and we can get you involved. Also, a big shout out to our program producer, Regina Hackett. She does an amazing job organizing communications, logistics, technology, and all that goes into putting these programs together. And of course, our New England chapter sponsors. Without the support of our sponsors, we could not bring all of the valuable programs and events to our members and the public works community. Our sponsors continue to step up and support the New England chapter and our public works community. So thank you to our sponsors. The New England Chapter Connects program was originally created to keep all of us connected. We have another great session coming up on November 16th, workforce planning in turbulent times. So be sure to tune in for that. It'll be another great session, especially with what we're all dealing with right now in terms of workforce. So let's get going. I'd like to introduce our panel today. It's with great pleasure to introduce our distinguished panel of speakers this morning. Our first speaker, panelist, Dave Ishiara. Dave is the Director of Aviation Services for the Massachusetts Port Authority at Boston's Logan International Airport. Dave oversees airfield, terminal, and streetside operations and maintenance, aviation, security, and compliance with TSA regulatory requirements and customer service at Boston's Logan International Airport. Prior to his role at Massport, Dave was Federal Security Director at the TSA, and prior to that, Federal Security Director at the FAA. So good morning, David, and welcome. Our next panelist is Jim Moore. Jim is the Operations Supervisor, Roads Division in the City of St. John, Newfoundland and Labrador. This division provides maintenance to the roads and sidewalks network throughout the City of St. John, approximately 1,400 lane kilometers. If you're doing that math very quickly, that's about 870 lane miles. The division primarily focuses on paving during the summer with a staff of 60, but during winter, that staff increases from 60 to 220 plus an additional 16 supervisors. So it's quite an operation up there. Jim has worked with the city since 2001 as an Director of Operations for 2 seasons, then supervisor. He is also very involved in the American Public Works Association and the Canadian Public Works Association since 2010 and was chapter president from 2016 to 2018. Our next panelist is Alan Hanscom. Alan is the New Hampshire Department of Transportation Maintenance Engineer, a position that oversees statewide operations across 6 highway maintenance districts. Prior to this role, Alan served as District 3 engineer in the central part of New Hampshire and then for 7 years, and then was the District 2 engineer in west central part of New Hampshire between 1996 in 2015. New Hampshire has 9,400 lane miles of highway, including 8,352 lane miles in 6 maintenance districts, and then 652 lane miles in the Bureau of Turnpikes. So it's quite an operation up there as well. They have approximately 850 pieces of equipment for plowing operations, split almost equally between state-owned trucks and privately owned trucks that they service during the season. They currently have a 30% vacancy rate statewide, with 2 districts running a vacancy rates between 40% and 50%. So it's quite a challenge up there in New Hampshire for him. Tom Wozaleski is the Director of Public Works for the town of Ellington, Connecticut. Tom is a highly experienced professional who joined the Public Works team as foreman in 2018. He was promoted to superintendent and recently was promoted to Director of Public Works in July. Tom was recently recognized as Outstanding Achievement in Public Works by the New England chapter for all his work with the New England Chapter Connects and the education programs in New England. So we want to welcome Tom this morning as well. And then lastly, our last panelist is Zach Blodgett. Zach is the Deputy Director and City Engineer for the City of Montpelier, Vermont. Zach started with the City of Montpelier in 2011, joining the DPW right upon graduation from Norwich University. Zach oversees water, sewer, streets, and the city's fleet division. He also assists the director in preparing the Public Works budget, and takes a lead role in developing the capital improvement plan for the City of Montpelier. His work passions include technology and in the workplace, improving asset management, project management, steady state budgeting, and improving DPW and public relations. So he's got quite a role in Montpelier as well. So again, welcome everybody. I'm glad you're here to join us this morning. We have some questions for you, and essentially we want to hear how your operations may have changed. So I'm going to start out with some questions right out of the gate here. And that first question is, what winter operational tactics did you implement during COVID that still exist today? And did you gain efficiencies in areas that you didn't expect? So I'm going to start out this one with Alan up in New Hampshire. You're on, and just remember, folks, on the panel, just unmute yourself. There you go. Perfect.
I remembered this time. Excuse me. I think us, as well as most of the citizens, we still encourage social distancing and all that stuff. We are much more likely to encourage motorists to stay home during storms, which we didn't have the guts to say that too often. Unlike Newfoundland, we get a lot of cross-border traffic from visitors from the south that like to go to the ski areas, and so we were kind of shamed into not discouraging visits. But we do encourage folks to stay home. If COVID taught us nothing else, it taught us that we can do whatever we need to do wherever we are. We don't have to drive to an office or go to the school, so that's helpful. And we're a bit more vocal about reminding motorists that the roads are going to be slippery during a storm. Don't expect bare and wet, which we do. That's one of our messages that we're a lot more likely to share now than we did. Efficiencies, probably remote meetings, good or bad, are the norm today. And we're very good at plugging little cracks in our schedules with impromptu meetings and sucking up that time that we used to use to clear our head or to do the stuff that we're supposed to do for the next meeting or the last meeting. And so you can call it efficiencies or aggravating, one way or the other, but so that's probably the gist of how we made it through the pandemic and going forward.
Yeah. Dave, let's go to you, Dave. And obviously a whole different operation at Logan. Not always can, turn people away, although you might have picked up some efficiencies during COVID that you weren't quite thinking about it before that, right?
Yeah, we weren't thinking about it at all, Rich, obviously, like most people beforehand, and it is kind of a unique operation. But, I think one of the best things we did is we had to come up authority-wide. We had a COVID staffing plan, but within facilities and operations in particular, we developed a staffing plan, which also included things like muster locations and social distancing in our break rooms, because when we're in snow removal operations, whether it's a street side operation or an air side operation, we tend to work 6 hours on, and then the operators go down for 6 hours because we may be here like everybody else for a couple of days. So we put people in what we call platoons, so that you worked with the same group of people every shift, or you're 6 hours on, 6 hours off. Some of that was because of contact tracing, right? So if we started to mingle people, we didn't want to have one person test positive for COVID and take 12 operators with them out of the operation. So having the staffing plan, I think, is great. It's on the shelf. It's something we can implement, God forbid, this winter if we need to. Some of the things we kept around, though, clean down kits in the trucks as people swap vehicles. During COVID, they're hypersensitive to the virus, and we've maintained that. Operators have asked us to do that. So,
Wow, good one.
there's
Good
some
one.
others.
Zach, how about you?
Yeah, so for the city of Montpelier, we actually had during COVID, we were just starting a new operational tactic, which was alternate side parking throughout the winter. It was something that we actually found from our friends in Canada. So during COVID was the very first year that we implemented this. So we went to alternate side parking, even calendar days, you park on the even side of the street, odd calendar days on the odd side. And what that allowed us to do logistically for snow removal operations, it allowed our staff to be more efficient to get to these streets to actually remove the snow. In addition, it also streamlined that because it took less trucks, less bodies. So we were able to separate crews, break them up a little bit, and have them get out there to remove that snow off the street. That still exists today. It is still functioning very well. The only thing with that was that the first year of COVID wasn't a great gauge on how successful the program was because we were looking at how many parking tickets we were actually putting out there, how many vehicles were towed, and so it took really 3 years to get a good gauge and good understanding of how successful that program was. But it still exists today, and actually some of our surrounding communities are moving to that model as well.
Awesome. So Jim Moore, up in Newfoundland, where you always have sunny, warm days all through the winter. How about you?
Yeah. Okay. So here up in Newfoundland, we had we did a lot of virtual stuff once COVID had hit. When it came to meetings with the supervisors, just to get information, communications out to them. With staff, we with so many staff that we had, we were able to leave half staff at home. They would then report to work or stay at home and be reporting to work from home for their 8-hour period. And they'd have to answer the phone, obviously, if a call had come through looking for them. Because for the most part, I mean, we don't have snow all the time, but we do have snow a lot. And we didn't need to keep everybody at work, and we could separate them. If something had broke out, we would then be able to isolate a shift. And still have staff at home to come to do the essential work that we needed to do. A lot of the supervisors then became very familiar and using their phones for texting and, assigning duties, calling people into work, and then they would assign their duty by text. So the operators actually come to work. They wouldn't need to report. They wouldn't have to come in to go to the desk. They just go directly to their piece of equipment, their truck or wherever they were assigned to, and go directly to work. Then communicate with the radios with the trucks. We all keep the sanitation stations. They're still ongoing now throughout the city. We still have all those things in place, even in the trucks. And a lot more things resulted in being digital. So there was a lot more less touching things. We actually had operators, the vehicle inspection slips, they do them daily. Were actually, they were taking photos of those and they were sending them into their supervisor because there has to be recording kept provincially for the governments. So a lot of this stuff really went to the technology side, and we still do it today with staff. So a lot of communication has gone that way. So this is how some of the stuff through COVID is still carrying on through today for us.
Yeah. Wow. Tom?
Yeah, I'll kind of piggyback on Jim's technology efforts. So in the town of Ellington, townwide, we implemented a one-touch notification system called Everbridge, which maybe some of you are familiar with and some may not be, but we've taken it on to a DPW level now, where we can call our folks in during winter operations at the touch of a button through that same notification system. So it was implemented townwide during COVID, but we're just taking it on now to the DPW side of things. So it's kind of spilled over from the COVID era, if you will. So that was a nice little piece of the puzzle. Something else that we had already had in place for our staff was our electronic work order display, which was basically we create a Google sheet for our day's work orders, and staff could come in on an individual basis, view their work assignment for the day, and then head out and go do their assignment. Whereas in the past, we would have everybody congregate in one area. We would verbally distribute the work order for the day, and then they would go on about their duties. And this was a little bit more streamlined, and also was in line with the social separation protocol that we were all under during COVID. So that's kind of what we did in Ellington.
Yeah. We did have one question in the chat box, and I'll go very quickly to everybody. And the question was, how many miles of road do each of you have, and how many staff do you have plowing? Zach?
Yeah, we have approximately 52 miles of roadway, and we have 13 streets divisions employees that maintain the roads. We do tap into our water sewer folks and our equipment division folks as needed for additional help and support.
Yeah. How about you, Tom?
I was just typing in the chat. We have 109 miles of road, probably 4 or 5 of which is dirt. And to remove the snow from those roads, we have 11 frontline drivers and then 11 additional staff members to act as cleanup crew staff, if you will.
Yeah. And Alan, I think I may have mentioned this in your intro, but why don't you tell us again?
Statewide, we have about 9,000 lane miles. So you have to do a little math to figure that out, including interstate and turnpike. And almost 700, just under 700 permanent field positions that do summer and winter maintenance.
Yeah, yeah. And Dave, it's probably a little different for you. You have runways to deal with, right? But why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think we can translate it. So we've about 19 lane miles street side around the terminals and our cargo facilities, and about 114 lane miles in runways and taxiways. You have to do a little math there. Our runways are 150 feet wide, and 4 of the 6 are about 2 miles long. And then we've got a couple dozen taxiways. So we run a runway team, a taxiway team, and a street side team during the storm. We've got about 35 operators assigned each shift, again, on that 6 hours on, 6 hours off rotation.
Yeah. Okay. Jim? I did the kilometer calculation for everybody. I think it was 870 or something like that.
Yeah. And that's what I just Googled it. So bear with me. So yeah, it was about 869 lane miles, I guess, that we're looking after. We do have 3 snow clearing crews that look after the roads, just over about 220, which includes another 30 to clear sidewalks. And that's going to increase substantially next year. We're probably going to be running about 60 operators on sidewalks next year, with 3 supervisors looking after that, which is a big increase for the city to do the sidewalk snow clearing. So we're going to be up next year, probably this year about 220, 250 next year.
Yeah. So that's a great segue to my next question. And it said workforce shortages issue experienced during COVID were significant, right? And seem to have carried over to today's employee marketplace. What creative solutions have you tried to obtain and retain employees? And that seems to be, I mean, that's across the board, whether it's private industry or whether it's the public sector, but certainly initially, let's go to Tom first on this one.
Sure. I was hoping to jump in pretty quickly. So we had initiated what we call the summertime hours protocol back in 2014, which was basically a 4.5-day work week. And during COVID, we went to a 4-day work week where we took Fridays off, which was very nice for everybody. But those hours that we had instilled prior were only during the months of like April through October. So as we transitioned out of COVID in that 4-day work week, we recognized that the shorter work week was very attractive. So we did a trial run of the summertime hours, if you will, year round, and it was successful. So our new union contract as of this year calls out those hours as being the normal hours for DPW. So we currently have a 4.5-day work week where we work Monday through Thursday, 6:30 to 3:30. And then Friday, we work from 6:30 to 12:30 without a lunch. And that seems to be quite an attraction for folks that on the other side of the interview table as we're interviewing them. When we share that type of information, their eyes widen up a little bit, so it seems to be an attraction. So I think that's definitely something that has spilled over from COVID that's helped us not only attract, but retain our current staff.
Which is important again during the winter operations, right? When you really need them.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
So Zach, how about you in Montpelier?
So the biggest thing that we did during COVID, we had quite a few vacancies. We were around 30%. We amended our union contract and we brought the base salary up like $3.50 to $4 an hour higher, which was something that the city had never done, is to break the union cycle contract and to amend it midterm. That allowed. There's a couple of things that we did with that. We also included a provision that if you don't have a CDL, immediately upon receiving your CDL, we bumped you up immediately. So we made the early progressions within the contract much easier. And we started instantly getting employees wanting to come here because they could see higher pay rates and quicker momentum moving through the program. In addition to that, we also, like Tom just mentioned, we are still utilizing work through lunch. It is something that this day and age that employees want. They want to be able to get in, get out, and do their work. So we are also implementing that, and that has stayed throughout COVID.
So David, I'm sure that you have quite a stable of staff at Massport, but it's got to be tough trying to find new staff.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I'm here because I'm taking some notes. So we've got about 250 in a facilities operation, 250 mostly unionized employees between Teamsters, IBEW, electricians, and plumbers and pipe fitters union. And I mentioned the electricians because not only do they do the traditional sort of electrical work in terminals in our streets and street lighting and terminal lighting and such, but they also are responsible for clearing runway signs, airfield signage that pilots use. All of our runway and taxiway lighting systems are maintained by our electricians. So it's been a bit tough. I mean, during COVID, we did honor our CBA, escalations, pay increases every July 1st. On the admin side, we laid off about 20% of the non-union workforce, and we froze pay for 2 years. That wasn't a huge incentive on the admin side, but we've always struggled to compete with, people who need licenses to work in this kind of environment at a quasi-state agency. But oddly, one of the attractive things about working here is that you're working here. It's a very unique operation, and it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. So Alan, I know I have a lot of discussions with Mass DOT, and I know what they've been going through trying to attract staff. I would suspect that New Hampshire DOT is the same thing.
Yeah, we're all competing for the same thing. We're all looking for people with a CDL. We're looking for private operations that have drivers for their trucks with a CDL. We have a significant shortage, as I said, in CDL drivers and in civil engineers, about 25% there. Excuse me. We do assist new employees in getting their CDL within a year. We're established as an official testing facility with a training program, a curriculum under the new motor carrier regs. And we're very successful in getting new employees through that in record time, in like 5 or 6 weeks. In one case where it left to their own devices, they drag it out for a long time. As a state agency, we're not very nimble in reacting to market forces and raising pay to compete. Whereas local municipal or private corporations can set whatever they want fairly easily. We instituted last year and again this year a $5,000 incentive to winter volunteers to offer to work in a crew and plow. Half paid up front, half paid at the end of the winter, assuming they fulfilled their obligation. And we've been able to leverage about 100 employees in DOT and other state agencies to come and do that. So we've got 200 vacant seats, and we filled about half of them as a result of that. So it's a little bit different, and we pay a weekly stipend to recognize them for the uncertainties of being on call and the difficulties in families and stuff. And we increase that from $35 a week to $50 a week for their on-call status. So we haven't, people still aren't rushing to come work for us, but it's a retention incentive, and we have incentivized some to stay with us, but we still have difficulty with the rate of pay, so we're still working on that.
Yeah. So Jim, what are you doing up in Newfoundland to attract and retain employees?
Well, I'm right in between interviews right now, so I'm trying to hire. We just found out we need another 40 staff right now. We're at 20 right now. We're really going out to these colleges, heavy equipment colleges, promote the municipality, and trying to get the people that have just graduated. They've got the training, they got the knowledge. They just need, to get onto the equipment, and we have our own internal trainers. Some of the other things that we do have a very good, throughout our municipality and the surrounding ones, we're the highest paid for our first-class operators. Well over $33 an hour. If you work a night shift, there's an incentive then for another $3 an hour on your pay to work the night shifts and overnight, things like that. So this is some of the incentives we're trying to do, but we're really struggling here in the past. Last year we had 167 applicants. This year I'm at 71. So we're, like I said, we're at 40 now short this year. I'm interviewing right now. I'm just in between interviews actually right now for staff.
Well, I think it froze up.
Oh, am I there now?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm having trouble with my video there. That's because we're in Newfoundland on the Big Rock. Yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge here too, keeping staff. It's since COVID has stopped, a lot of people have gone west to the oil fields in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and BC. So we don't get a lot of people coming back now looking for winter work. So it's just a challenge.
Did we lose Rich?
I think we lost Rich that time.
I think we lost Rich.
I think we did.
All right, I can
All right.
jump in here. I think the next question we
Yeah,
have
it's gonna
for
be
the
tough. All
panel-
right, I think we lost him for a second.
Oh, there you go.
So
You there, Rich?
are we there? Are we there?
We're here.
All right. I
We
think
can hear
we're
you.
back. Okay. All right, great. I think we're all back. So next question I had for the group is relative to supply chain issues. Now, we know there was a lot of that going on during COVID. Are you still experiencing supply chain issues like we saw during COVID? And if you are, how are you dealing with that one? And let's go to Zach.
Yeah, we certainly are seeing the supply chain issues. Mostly though, right now it's on equipment purchasing side of things. So in terms of material purchasing, we're able to get the materials quicker than when we were in COVID. But on the equipment purchasing side, we're not able to get the trucks that we need. One thing that we've had to do is be a little bit more flexible with our purchasing. So we'll get a call from a vendor that tells us that the piece of equipment that we had placed an order for isn't going to be readily available in any time frame. But they'll say, well, would you consider moving to a different piece of equipment that we have on our lot today? And so we've had to be a little bit open to that. It's not the ideal piece of equipment that we wanted. But we've been able to get different pieces of equipment that will operate in a similar nature and that will meet our needs. So just being a little bit open to and a little bit more flexible on what we're getting, because when we were so rigid on our specs and what we wanted, we weren't getting it timely.
Yeah, okay. Alan, certainly New Hampshire DOT, not only equipment, but perhaps materials as well, right? How we've been dealing with supply chain?
I think similar to Zach, the materials itself we're doing pretty well on, but it is equipment. 3/4 ton pickups. We're several years behind schedule on replacing them. They tell us now that if we weren't so married to our favorite Omaha Orange, that we could get things in a more timely fashion. I don't know if they only build Omaha Orange a few days a year or what it is, but that's what they tell us. So you may see some cherry red and some baby blue out there, whereas we wouldn't have considered it before. We do run into problems with components on dump trucks and other stuff. So PTO pumps or hydraulic pistons or some component, we still do run into problems with those at times, but it's mainly purchasing the equipment that we want. Some things we can be flexible on with color, but we still need a 3/4 ton with an 8-foot body, and a 6-foot body doesn't work for us. So, but getting the other normal stuff, I think we're in pretty good shape that way.
Yeah. So Dave, your equipment may be a little bit different just in terms of the type of equipment, things like obviously snow removal, but snow melters and things like that. How you been dealing with that at Logan?
It's the same as Zach and Alan. It's long lead times, whether it's whole pieces of equipment or parts, but materials are good. Some of the equipment is traditional plows, dump bodies, and plows and spreaders and such. And the airfield equipment is very unique. And that is something that we order years in advance, typically, by the time it gets into a build. We're competing with other airports around the world for similar pieces of equipment. So jumping in that supply calendar is important for us.
Yeah. Tom, you got everything you need down in Ellington, I hear.
Yeah, we're full staffed and full equipment outfitted. We still see a small delay in some of our procurement type of products, but we're a little bit longer, 13 to 18 months on a truck. Other than that, the basic parts inventory is coming in a lot better than it was now. There's still some small supply chain issues, and honestly, as much as they'd like to pin it on COVID at this point, I'm pretty sure that most supply chain issues are probably not COVID related any longer.
Yeah. Yeah. Jim, anything to offer with, I think it seems like we have a common theme here.
Yeah, I think so. And I think part of that is that I think these guys are using that as a line. I met with vendors yesterday. We have 10 new trucks coming in, and he told me that we'll have them before the end of 2024, Western Star trucks. However, we just received 4 of our pre-COVID trucks in April past. So supply chain, and I mean, living here out in Newfoundland, we're on an island, so that makes it a lot harder for us to, if we need parts, things like that, it's got to be flown in, or it's got to come by, on the boats or on the trucks. We're not connected to the mainland, so it makes it harder for everything to get here. When it comes to different supplies, salt and sand, things like products like that, we're doing pretty good. It's not a shortage of that stuff. It's mainly the heavy equipment. It's the trucks. Just trying to keep the fleet on the road is a very, very, very big challenge. We have 40-odd trucks. We're lucky to have 22 on the road at one time.
Wow. So, we talked about supply chain and we talked about workforce shortage. And, with any public agency, whether it's a small town or a capital city, or even bigger agencies like Massport and Logan Airport and New Hampshire DOT. What was some of the, how did you manage expectation, I guess? What was some of the impacts, the public impact? I mean, we know what it is. Like if you fly, for example, I don't want to, this is not necessarily directed right at aviation kind of things, but we hear all the time, oh, gee, my flight was canceled, or my flight was delayed, or that sort of thing. And sometimes these things are not necessarily the airlines, just weather related kind of stuff. But I'd like to hear from the panel during COVID and even to today, given workforce shortages and supply chain issues, how are we managing expectation with the public? And I'm going to start with Alan on that one.
Well, I wouldn't say that we're setting expectations low, but we try to message that we're doing the best we can with what we have, the resources that we have at disposal. We do tell our employees that we understand that they can't do it all. They can only do so much. And they do the best they can, and that we back them up on that when we receive a concern from, the public or media or legislators or something like that. We're trying to be very clear of what our situation is, and we tell a story. That's kind of what our job is. We try to tell our story, and we have some success. They're not rushing to write us big checks to cash, but we can only do what we can do. And I think our biggest impacts are not related to health. They're the other issues we've already talked about. So
Yeah, Dave, I'm dying to hear what your comments are on this one.
Yeah, it's everybody has expectations, Rich, and for us, so just to put it into perspective, we have about 550 departures a day and 550 arrivals, about 1,100 airline operations every day and 140,000 passengers every day. But during a storm, we'll work with the airlines to talk, because if there's weather in Boston, there's typically weather in New York first, if it's a traditional nor'easter. So the entire national airspace system starts to get impacted. So we'll work with airlines to thin out their schedules to the extent that they can, because if they're operating on runways and taxiways, we can't plow those runways and taxiways until they're clear. So airlines have an expectation that runways and taxiways and routes to the terminals will be available. Passengers expect that when they come out of the tunnel or down Route 1, they're not going to get stuck on a ramp leading to Terminal A or Terminal C. So streets have to be clear, airfield has to be clear. And the FAA has an incredible, high expectations. We're on a call with them at least twice a day to talk about whether what our runway configuration is going to be and how a storm is going to impact us, because they've got to plan the airspace and they're relying on us to be accurate. Keeps you up at night.
So how do those messages get to the public, Dave?
So, if you live in this area, you'll hear typically our boss, director of aviation on BZ, they're doing live stand-up interviews in the terminals. So it's radio, it's TV, and then we're on calls with the governor's office and the state DOT, MassDOT, and others, so that state agencies and the governor is aware of what the air travel impact is going to be for us. And obviously it's broader than that. So, and then social media, we tweet and or X, whatever we do these days. But we use social media as well to communicate.
Yeah. How about you, Zach? How are you doing with expectations in Montpelier?
So one of the things that came out of COVID is an emphasis on focusing on core services. We really try to separate the essential services that we provide versus the things that the public kind of wants. So making sure your streets are safe for the traveling public. And then one of the tools that we're utilizing is we've actually hired a communications coordinator. So she does a lot of different things for us. She's constantly on Facebook and Front Porch Forum for us. But in addition to that, every week we issue a DPW weekly newsletter, and it tells them all of our progress that we've made on all of our projects, things that are upcoming, any challenges that we might be having. So through her, we are trying to be abundantly transparent. And our kind of registration for that newsletter went from about 50 at its start point to now we're almost approaching 1,000 over the past year. So it's been a huge success. We're getting really good feedback. It's a known source that they can rely on to get information. So that's one thing that we're doing, and it's been very helpful for us.
Well, it's great. You're getting that feedback from them as well. How about you, Tom?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on Zach's comment there. So we, through social media and the town website, we just notified folks that, we're struggling with some staffing issues. You can expect some delays in service, and answered any questions that came in via social media or through email or through the phones. But that did highlight the need, or I guess increased our desire to promote that high level of transparency from a DPW level to the general public. So there's less misconceptions of what we do and why we do it. So like Zach, we're working towards creating a public awareness campaign and launching our own website and social media platform so we can separate ourselves from the town agenda, if you will, and kind of really highlight what the DPW does. So COVID really highlighted the need for that for us. So we're in the infancy stages of that right now.
Right. Any type of campaign, Jim, up in Newfoundland that you're managing expectations with the public? Is Jim still on? We may have lost Jim. He is on an island.
Yeah,
so
he dropped off.
is he back?
No, he dropped off. I keep going.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we just heard about some of the success that Zach was talking about in Montpelier, but how has your approach been to measuring success? Again, all of these things were going on during COVID. We've implemented new technology, new ideas, all that sort of thing. Some may still be in play. What have you been doing? How have you been able to measure the success of these changes since COVID? Who wants to start with that one? Zach, you want to start?
Sure. Well, again, I'm going to go back to having a communications coordinator. Having her in place allows her to take a lot of time into reaching out to the public, engaging with them. She's consistently doing a lot of polls, a lot of asking people for feedback. So we take that information that she gets, and then we're able to bring that to our leadership and management group and to kind of strategize how we move next. So we're using our communications coordinator, and she's constantly asking for feedback, and we are continuously kind of updating and changing how we function based on that information.
Yeah. Tom?
I think that I don't know if we measure the success of the post-COVID operations in any particular way, but I could say just keeping our staff healthy and highlighting the need to, if you're not feeling well, don't come to work, because we understand now a lot better than we may have in the past that one particular individual can take out the entire crew, and it's detrimental to operations. So I think that keeping everybody on staff, keeping those folks here that we want to keep here, keeping them here, and getting new folks in the door, that's definitely a good way to measure your success, I think. I don't know that I have a scale that I could compute a measurement on, but I'd say that just making sure our staff is happy and healthy and present is probably one of the biggest ways that we measure success here.
Okay. Dave?
Yeah, I'm gonna, similar to Tom, making sure that our crews, our show rate for each storm is high, because we, obviously we need the crews here to deliver, to meet expectations. And, so for us, it's passengers making the flight, right? So whatever schedule the airlines have, maintaining that schedule and ensuring that once we're out there, aircraft aren't diverting, aren't going to another airport because they didn't have a service available. It's a bigger deal in the afternoon for that stretch of the storm because of the international flights. We have less frequency, so there's less room for error, and they tend to always operate because of that. So it's really making sure people get to those seats and the airplanes arrive and depart on time.
Yeah. Alan?
So we do some of the normal stuff of Facebook and weekly email or messaging out with projects and stuff. We receive far more positive comments than negative comments, and some of those negative comments we'll find an interesting photo or something that we can craft a message around. And even when someone a naysayer shows up, the other folks usually jump on and shut them down pretty quickly. We do have to pick and choose our battles and decide when to let things flow or when to turn comments off sometimes. But we resisted naming our snowplows so far, at least, unlike some of our neighbors, but we may have that in our back pocket. Part of our success is the positive comments that we get from folks after they've crossed the border. So sometimes it goes the other way, but usually they're happier when they get back on the New Hampshire Road than from where they came from.
Tell us real quick about tell us real quick about naming the snowplow. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know if it's a good thing, but I know, I believe Vermont has named their plows. They've had contests to name a plow, and I'm not clever enough off the cuff to say what some of them are, but if you ask Google knows everything. So another positive is, even though we do have a high success rate, we have a lot of people that have been here a long time. Most show up for every storm, even when they shouldn't. We have walking wounded that really should have stayed home. But they're dedicated. They consider it's a state highway, but it's their main street. It's the road that their family and friends use to get to the store or get to school. And they're the ones that get accosted at the post office or the general store when they're getting a coffee of good and bad stuff. So they take it to heart. And a lot of them stay with us. Not everybody, some move on quickly, but a lot have been here a long time. We've got some with 35, 40 years that are well up in their age bracket, and they still show up to work. They probably could make more money if they retired, but so we kind of consider that a success, I think.
Yeah. Jim, are you with us?
Yeah, he should be able to you can't see him.
Oh, there he is.
Can you
There he
hear
is.
me?
Yep, we're just talking about how
Yes.
you're measuring success in your operation since COVID's.
Well, trying to measure success through COVID, again, we talk about our equipment and how, it's been very hard to do that. We've just done a review with our fleet asset management team. We got about 1,200 pieces of equipment here at the city altogether, including pickups, trucks, graders, loaders, the whole works, blowers. And they've just passed a new initiative through council to provide new vehicles every 5 to 6 years and then take the assets and resell them, which this should cut down on the maintenance costs on our equipment. We shouldn't have any equipment that is down so much. Our fleet department right now is we're down to half staff. There's 30 bays down there with less than 15 guys there right now. So having the new equipment, now this is going to be a couple of years down the line, will really make a big difference to us. The maintenance won't be there. We'll be able to keep our equipment on the road. But this, like I said, has just been recently passed by council. One of the things moved out of COVID. And then now that we have this, we can order equipment earlier. So come January, I think we're ordering 13 new loaders. I think there's 10 new trucks, along with 7 new, D60 size blowers. So this is some of the good things that's coming out of this that we've realized, and council's backing us.
Yeah. So, just in terms of lessons learned, right? Knowing what you know now, is there anything you would have done differently during COVID? And especially for your winter operations in particular. And then based on that, how had that changed your approach to winter operations today? So that's kind of a big question there. Yeah. But the thought is, we've been through this. You guys are all professionals in your operations, and sort of looking back and say, geez, I don't know if I would have done it that way. We had to do it because it was thrust upon us. But I'd be interested to hear how that might have changed your approach. Zach?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is understanding the employees' needs a little bit better. Through COVID, we've had to be really receptive, kind of agile for change. So just understanding their needs, providing them more support. Because if you lose your old team, you're kind of dead in the water anyways. So I think the biggest thing is just listening to them, hearing what they need, supporting them and their goals and how to get there, and making sure that they feel supported. And in turn, it's kind of created a better culture for us, a more positive culture in the workplace. So Zach, just to extend on that. So has that carried forward to today? Has that changed your approach to operations today? Oh, absolutely. I don't think, before COVID, it wasn't the mentality always wasn't employees kind of first. It was, functions, core services. You need to get the job done, get the job done, get the job done. And now frequently we're taking a step back and we're saying, well, how are the employees doing? How is their longevity? Like, are they happy? We're trying to measure and gauge how they're doing because it helps with keeping and retaining them as well. I mean, so I think we are consistently considering the employees' needs more so than we did before COVID hit.
Yeah. How about you, Tom?
Yeah, so I think Ellington performed perfectly in COVID, and I don't really have anything to add. No, I mean, looking back on the situation, I think that what kind of a unique thing that came out of it was just a recognition that there were so many different opinions and feelings during COVID on how our staff felt about the situation and what they were comfortable with doing and what they weren't comfortable with doing. And if we hadn't been thrown into a COVID style situation, we would have never known those traits of people. So I guess the director we had at the time, I thought did a really good job adhering to the protocols and enforcing the protocols. But post COVID, as director myself now, it gives me an opportunity to take a look back at those personalities, and it kind of helps me manage those folks a little bit differently because their personalities were just shown in a different light. So I think that's kind of something that that maybe we could have addressed under a different approach during COVID, and I certainly find myself addressing differently now.
Yeah. Yeah. Dave, want to comment on this one?
Briefly, I think looking back, we did the best we could at the time, with a lot of pressure to come up with a plan, but it really just did expose how vulnerable we were with staffing. So when one person gets sick and you take out, a whole team of people, it really puts you in a situation where you may or may not be able to operate this place if things don't get better. So I think looking back, we did the best we could. Are there other things we could have done with the platooning schedules? And there were, I think somebody else mentioned, we did something similar where we were actually having people stay home and before their shift, and getting paid to stay home in some cases just to protect the workforce. Very complicated, but I think we'd look at that again, Rich.
So Dave, have any of those things carried forward?
I think it's more about the awareness and having a plan. In some respects, at least around here, you feel like COVID, okay, we understand what COVID is now. It's not sort of the hysteria that happened in the first, as this thing was starting to emerge. We've gotten to a new sort of a baseline at this point, but nonetheless, something similar could happen again. I think we're better prepared now, but this is probably a good prompt to go back and make sure that plan is solid. And if we're going to tweak something, let's tweak it now.
Yeah. How about you, Alan?
Yeah, I think it's some of those soft skills that some of us are better at than others, or some of you are better at than others. We went many months in DOT without having any employees test positive. It was months and months, and it was unusual. And oh wow, someone's positive. And I was running a small office. There's only a dozen of us in the building, and I kicked everybody out of my bubble and said, you guys work from home, and because I'm going to stay here, kind of thing. So there was 3 or 4 instead of 12, and the others drifted back and forth. And the same thing in the headquarters building I'm in now, with is 350 people that work here. It was 2/3 or more vacant throughout the pandemic, and people got a taste of work for home. We proved that it's possible, and we can still get the projects out. We can still get the bills paid, and not have much of a negative effect other than the feeling of family. But and now I guess a carry on from that is now is a department policy that allows a set number, 1 or 2 days a week that they're allowed to work from home, when that was never a consideration or a possibility before. So I think in recognition of family and what their needs are today, that we frankly maybe didn't care about before so much. So
yeah, right. Jim, how about you? We're getting close to the end here. Any things that any lessons learned that you may have done differently looking back, or that you brought forward?
Well, I guess to echo, sorry my video's not working, guys. It's in and out like crazy here. Must be really windy over on the West Coast, blowing the internet apart. But anyway, no, we had a lot of learning. It's no different than anybody else here. Our staff, when they became sick, they became very cautious on what they wanted to do and how they wanted to move forward. And we had to work with them in order to, keep these guys at work and make sure they were protected as much as possible in order to provide the level of service to the public that, if it was snowing and things like that, that we kept things moving. But you really had to take into consideration, and it really brought out, a lot of different things. HR was involved with us steadily as people became sick. Our HR department actually, and the wellness department, they actually would be working with us during the night times, overnights with the crews, because we'd have people at nighttime, having to go home because they're sick. Then the equipment has to be sanitized and different things like that. So it really opened your eyes up to how, actually people, I guess, stood back and said, my God, I really don't want to catch this virus. And this is what, we're trying to help you as much as possible, give them as much as possible to keep them here at work. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you just lost me. The screen just went blank. But anyway,
No, we're good. We're good.
all good. That's one of the biggest things that it's still to this day. We have people doing that they still use the sanitized stations. They take the cleaning products. They'll clean equipment, and we still have staff walking around still with the masks on. People who are on shore, right? So it still carries on to this day.
Yeah. So we have about a minute left, and 10 seconds or less. Parting comments for all those that are on the call today as we enter into the winter season. We'll start with you, Dave. Any advice for our viewers today?
Yeah, we're marching into a winter and everyone's got a theory about what it's going to be like. And I think everybody knows what to do and how they're going to react. I appreciate being here, Rich, and learning from all of the DPW colleagues. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. How about you, Jim? 10 seconds or less.
Everything's good. We'll know what the winter's like in April. So everybody take care.
Okay. Al?
Hopefully we can stay healthy and happy and do the best we can with what we have. Pretty soon it'll only be rain all winter long, but the ocean will be a lot taller. So
There you go. And Zach, any final comment?
Yeah, just it's a long winter season for everybody, so stay safe and take care of your employees and do the best to support the public in the way that you can.
All right. How about you, Tom?
Yeah, I'm going to echo everybody's sentiments. I appreciate everybody joining us today. I appreciate the panel's knowledge and insight on the situation, and I hope to see everybody back here on November 16th for Workforce Planning in Turbulent Times.
Yeah, excellent. So again, I want to thank the panel. Obviously, I want to thank Regina for getting us to the finish line today. Again, thank you, panel. This was great. Hopefully, everybody enjoyed the discussion, picked up a few tips. You see the QR code on the screen. If you can just zoom in on that and fill out the evaluation form, that helps us with our programming. And again, as Tom just mentioned, November 16th, Workforce Planning in Turbulent Times. We hope you'll sign up for that. Again, we have these once a month, generally the fourth Thursday of the month, because of Thanksgiving, we're moving it up a week. But they're 1 hour, they're free. Pass it on to your colleagues and your friends. And we hope to see you again. Thanks, everybody, for joining this morning.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.